All right, kids. Today we're going to learn about vertex form and shifting parabolas. All right, but first we're going to review solving by completing the square. So we're going to solve this equation by completing the square. All right, so remember when we complete the square, we want to bring the constant term to the other side. So I'm going to bring this 14 over. So we're going to have x squared plus 8x plus, right, the square number is going to equal negative 14 plus the square number. Okay? The way we get that square number, remember, you take half of 8, we square it, that's going to be 16. Okay, we got to add 16 to both sides. Remember, on the right side, we got to combine negative 14 and 16, and that's going to give us positive 2. On the left side, we're going to bring down the x, we're going to bring down the plus, put it in parentheses, and then we're going to take the square root. Now, this is where vertex form is going to be different. We're not going to do the square root when we do vertex form. All right, we're going to end up with x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. All right, and since we're trying to find out what x is, we're going to bring that 4 to the other side, so it's going to switch to negative 4. All right, so now if you look at question 2, we are going to express this equation in vertex form by completing the square. Now what you should notice is it's y equals instead of equal to 0. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing the y to the other side because it's going to make it easier for us. So I'm going to put the equals y on the other side. All right, and now what we got to do, remember, we got to swing that 14 over. I'm going to slide over this way a little bit. So I'm going to have x squared plus 8x plus the unknown amount equals y. This 14, when we bring it over, it's going to become minus 14. But then we got to add on that square term. And just like we did before, we're going to do half of the x term, half of 8, and square that. And that's going to be 16, which we're going to add to both sides. On the right side, we're going to combine the negative 14 and the 16. That's going to give us plus 2, just like we did before, except it's going to be y plus 2 now. On the left side, you're going to bring down the plus, you're going to bring down the x, put it in parentheses. But now we're trying to get an equation equal to y. So instead of doing the square root, we're going to swing that 2 over, back over to the other side, and when we bring it over, it's going to be x plus 4 squared. That plus 2 is going to become a minus 2. And then I'm just going to put the y equals on the left side. So this is our equation in vertex form. And the reason why we call it vertex form is because I can now determine the vertex of this equation based on the form it's in. All right? So, real quick, I'm going to graph this equation so you can see it. All right, we're going to go to y equals. I'm going to graph the original equation. X to the second plus 8x plus 14. Now, when I graph it, notice where my vertex is. It's over to the left and down. So if I go to my table to try to find my vertex, I got to go to the left of 0 or before 0. All right, and if you look at it, look at my vertex. See where between where it's repeating, it goes 2, negative 1, negative 2, back to negative 1. So this is my vertex. Is negative 4, negative 2. And that's no coincidence. If you look at vertex form, it's going to be the opposite of this number and the same as that number. So this represents the x in the vertex, and this represents the y. That's my vertex form. So my vertex is always going to be the opposite of this number for the x, same as that number for the y. All right, so our vertex, -4, -2. This is also our shift. This is telling me that my parabola shifts left 4 and down 2. All right? So just some quick notes. This is your equation in standard form. ax squared plus bx plus c. That's standard form. We're now going to manipulate the equation to put it in vertex form. And vertex form is y equals x minus h squared plus k, where your vertex is h k. So for example, let's say I had an equation, y equals x minus h squared plus 2. My vertex is going to be the opposite. So if it's -8, then my vertex is going to be +8. And it's going to be the same. This is going to be my y. This is going to be my x, but it's going to be the opposite. So the opposite of -8 plus 8. And then this stays the same, 8, 2. Watch if I graph this equation. Y equals x minus 8 squared plus 2. Right? That's the equation I made up. I graph it. Notice my vertex is over here. If you go to your table of values, you'll see that your vertex is 8, 2. See that? It goes 11, 6, 3, 2, back to 3, back to 6, back to 11. All right, so this vertex represents the shift. All right, if you look at my parabola, it shifted to the right 8 and up 2. All right? All right, I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to do question number 2 in a separate video. All right?